Hey, folks, we have Ashwin here with us today, Associate Program Manager at GitHub Education, and he's going to be answering 20 questions for us, which are all, or at least most of them, are going to have takeaways for y'all to apply in your own communities and in your own journeys. So, Ashwin, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashwin Kumar Uppala. I'm an Associate Program Manager, and I work with GitHub Education. I manage different programs that you might have seen, heard, or maybe even part of, like the GitHub Campus Experts program, GitHub Octantships, and so on.
All right. So without any further ado, let's jump right into the questions. Now, the first question is something which I personally know the answer to, but I'm just going to re-ask it from you because I want you to share the answer with everyone here. So before you became a program manager at GitHub, you were once a GitHub Campus Expert. So what's the story behind you joining the GitHub Campus Experts program? And I think there's a very important takeaway there as well.
Yeah. Like everyone else, I had very strong ambitions of becoming a campus expert because I saw these people in red hoodies doing pretty cool work. And then, just being a campus expert is like this pride position that I really want to be part of. And when I applied to it for the first time, I got rejected. And the first time I got rejected, I got a feedback too that, hey, Ashwin, I think you need to work a bit more on understanding your community and along those lines. And that kind of like hurt my ego in the first few moments. Like, I don't understand my community. Like that was like a questioning my ego and questioning myself that maybe I don't understand it completely. So back then I tried to just took a leap of faith, and with an open mind, I just gave it a try. Like, let's try and try to learn more about my community. And before that, I had been part of a lot of clubs in college. But after that rejection, I decided to start my own community after learning a couple of problems that I have seen in my college, which other clubs were not solving. And after I opened that club called Hackerabad, I realized I was so wrong and the feedback was so true that I was actually grateful at that point. And we did a lot of events. We solved a lot of problems that we initially set to. And then 6 months later, I applied again and I got accepted. And by the time I got accepted, I truly realized what the program was really trying to point me towards. And I was really happy that I got rejected in the first place. And that's how I got accepted as a GitHub Campus Expert.
Nice. And I believe Hackerabad is still around many generations later, creating impact for folks in your community. So with that, let's move more into your role at your current role at GitHub. So how did your experiences as a GitHub Campus Expert initially shape your approach to the current role where you manage the program along with folks like Juan?
Well, I think the Campus Expert program gave me a lot of guidance, especially the training. The program gives you training when you get selected into the program, and all of those experiences along with the work that I'm doing as a campus expert, organizing events, networking with these global leaders, all kind of eventually distill into the career or work that you're doing. A lot of other campus experts that I know who have graduated from the program are really good leaders in different domains in technology, be it developer relations, software developer, software engineer, or even a program or product manager. All of these can be just simply branched out from the years I have spent as a campus expert, and it kind of like prepares you what you want to do at your work. It's just scaled out. It's just a larger impact, more impact, and more direct impact. Something similar that I have always been doing as a student, be it as campus expert or before it. It's just that the program kind of helped me give the right feedback, be with the people where I can be guided and mentored, and also get that support that I could not have on my own. in a very small college.
Gotcha. So, like you, like when you're answering your first question, you stated how feedback has benefited you. So, as someone who has got that benefit, how do you ensure that constructive feedback is always effectively communicated and utilized within your communities or in any community in general? What tips do you have?
Well, I personally love feedback, and there are different stages of giving and receiving feedback. It also depends on what environment this feedback is based on. It could be a feedback between a mentor and a mentee. It could be a one-to-many where you as a leader of your community is giving feedback to your entire team, or the other way around. And it can also be a feedback from an audience to the influencer or the speaker. It could be a feedback of how this stream the audience liked or not, or it could be a feedback of how me and Avin discuss how the stream went. Things that I keep in mind when receiving feedback is making sure the feedback is straight on point. It's not a sandwich compliment. Google it up what that means. It basically means you start with a very nice compliment, then you insert the feedback, and then you end the note with a pat on the back. It's very common, more common than you think, but when I'm trying to receive feedback, I try to keep it straightforward, on point, and the areas of improvement that I could improve in. When I'm trying to give feedback, it's important that the environment is safe, because feedbacks can be vulnerable. So if I'm the person giving feedback, it has to be either a private note or a private call, making sure both parties are comfortable, making sure the message is delivered, what I'm trying to convey, and also catching up on whether the feedback really helped the person or not. That is a very important part. Catching up to see if the feedback really helped that person improve or not can also help me understand how I can give feedback better in the future. So these are the two things I keep in mind.
Gotcha. Moving more into your career at GitHub. So there was a stint initially, the time that we initially got to know about you, where you were working on octernships, which was another initiative from GitHub Education. So how did this role shape you, and what key takeaways did you have during that stint during which you worked on octernships?
Yeah, so I was one of the octans at the program, and GitHub Octernships, previously called GitHub Externships, is a program where students who are really passionate about open source are paired with open source organizations and projects. They get to work with them, get hands-on professional experience, and they also get compensated for the time they spend. So it's an internship alternative program. And I octerned at GitHub, and when I was octerning, my work was documentation. So it was like, hey, how can I make sure everything is documented and available for everyone? So any documentation that you may have seen regarding that program was probably written by me, or drafted by me, or contributed by me. I was not the only person, but that was most of my task. And eventually I started taking up more responsibilities. I was more interested in what everyone else is doing because I had time as a student, and I started liking the work that program managers in our team were doing, and started to get involved more in those conversations. Took tiny tasks that I could complete, learned a lot from the conversation. So just being in the meetings, just being in the conversations helped me learn a lot, because I have no idea what's happening. It's a huge project. And eventually you start taking enough tasks. And this is a very common saying. The way how program managers and product managers are built is you just start taking enough tasks that you eventually own those initiatives. And that's how my growth happened, from documentation and taking enough initiatives and just being very curious. and using that curiosity to keep taking up more and more initiatives. And I ended up owning a part of the work that I was doing, and I was really proud of it. And that's the advice I would give if you are like early in your career or an intern or any in a similar role. Be curious, start taking up more roles, and you eventually end up owning those responsibilities.
Gotcha. I think all this, it's pretty clear that you have been heavily involved in communities over the years, and now you help others run their communities as a part of your work at GitHub. So what strategies do you believe are most effective in fostering a sense of belonging and inclusivity within tech communities? And this has become a very important topic as of late. So what tips do you have to foster like a sense of inclusivity, particularly for underrepresented groups, which could be a part of your community?
Yeah. This can be like a whole big discussion that I can totally talk about all day. Inclusivity is super important because not only it makes the community thrive, there have been research that it also improves the performance of the community itself. There's a reason like a lot of enterprises have and implement strictly like inclusivity and diversity, because it also changes the way the team thinks. And when you're trying to solve a problem beyond larger than your local community, if you're trying to go beyond college, if you're trying to go beyond your city, if that's the target of if the goal of your community, you need people who have diverse representation, who have been from different places, different cities, or even different cultures, because that's how you make sure that these folks are coming with a different struggle and they add that when you're trying to solve a problem. Couple of ways you can do that. First is like identifying the blind spots in your community. Not every inclusive problem will be same in every community. Not every problem of diversity will be same. You may have really good gender ratio diversity, but you may have really poor experience diversity in your community. So you need to first identify what are you lacking. And the only way to identify that is to reaching out to other leaders who have faced either similar problems or have solved this problem right now, but had this problem. So a lot of communities who are like super focused on inclusivity and diversity, Women Who Code and Oscar, and a lot of communities like this have really good resources and have really good people to talk about and learn from them on, because this problem has already been solved. So you don't have to reinvent the cycle of trying to solve this whole problem. The solution is already out there. You just need to talk to these people, how they solve this problem, and that can give you really good guidance on, oh, now I have some idea of how other communities did, how other leaders did. I have identified the solution, and these are the things that will work for yours. So step one is like identifying what are your blind spots if you're trying to solve the problem of diversity and inclusivity. Step two is implementing the solution at a structure level of your community. We love like doing events. We love talking about it out loud, but events are perishable. So once they're done, they're recorded. No one watched them again, or people really recognize them once the event is passed. Or if you are taking an initiative like this, if you graduate from that community, that initiative is also stale. So you need to make sure that you're implementing this at the core of your community as part of the culture of your community. So people think of diversity as part when they join your community, or when they're leading it, or when they're taking it over. This way, it also sends a message that your community or your club or whatever it is also from the core welcoming to different diverse people, and in turn it increases the satisfaction of everyone in the team.
Gotcha. So while we're on the topic of community, so what are your thoughts on the importance of collaboration and community building within your tech industry, particularly among young enthusiasts and students, and how much of a role do you think this plays in tech education overall?
I think a lot of great leaders come from collaboration. A lot of great communities come out of collaboration and working together. If you're talking about young enthusiasts, students, or even independent learners, the way to make them feel involved is by making sure they're getting involved. And collaboration does not happen. You have to do collaboration. Now, as an independent learner or someone new in your community, I will be overwhelmed or maybe not super confident if I to like be the first one to collaborate. So it is the role of the community members, organizers, or leaders to structure those events so that it encourages collaboration. So if it's a hackathon, how do you make sure team building is happening? Or if it's a meetup, how do you make sure people are meeting new people? Because if it's students involved, there are always friends. I mean, we love friends. I love taking my friends out to technical meetups, but I need to make sure that I'm meeting new people. And when you're going into a meetup or a space like that, it can be overwhelming. So only when the organizers announce that it's a safe space and make sure that this is a safe space, I can feel comfortable meeting new people. So these are very intentional designs that very few communities implement. Everyone wants collaboration, but collaboration does not happen unless you design your activities and your initiatives into more collaboration side. So if you are an organizer, if you are someone who wants collaboration to happen, if you think collaboration really adds value, you need to make sure you're designing your community which encourages collaboration from the start.
Gotcha. And moving on. So as someone who has seen a whole talk on the power of rejections, what wisdom do you have for the folks out there in our community or any of the viewers who have had failed attempts to join the program?
Honestly, get rejected. I think that's great. Worst will happen is like you will have to apply again 6 months later. For me, getting rejected was the best thing happening to me. That was a nice realization and a reality check of where I stand in like developer communities and in leadership as a mentor, as a leader, because everyone wants to be a good leader. I want to be a really good leader, but I don't know where I stand. If I get accepted, I know maybe I'm a good one. And if I got rejected, I need to work better. So get rejected, that's fine. Far better than not applying at all. But it's important that you need to record why you got rejected and what did you do which caused your rejection. So why is the feedback, if you got a feedback that tells you why you got rejected, and what did you do based on which you got rejected is, did you record your application? Do you have a copy of the application or whatever activities you have done? Because if you don't record that and you apply again without any changes, you will just get rejected again. You need to work on the things, on the feedback. You need to change the way you have applied. You need to work more on based on what your feedback suggests. And that can only happen if you remember, if you keep a record of your actions. So great, you got rejected, but to improve, you need to iterate. You can't just make the same mistake again. If it's happening, then there is something wrong in the process. So it's okay to get rejected. You'll be more proud if you get more rejected than like less rejections. I know perfection syndrome is a thing, or there can be a feeling of embarrassment that you got rejected, but that's all right. The community is great, especially the tech one. They're here to encourage you. And if you feel overwhelmed, you're not the only one. Everyone is overwhelmed. And that's okay. Just identifying that is enough. But I would rather focus more on getting started than getting it perfected. And yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, Gotcha. It definitely did. Moving on to a few other questions. So, during your stint as a campus expert or during your stint at GitHub Education, what's one quirky and unexpected skill that you developed during your time, if there's any?
During my stint as a campus expert.
Yeah.
Did you mean campus expert or what I'm doing right now?
Both. Yeah, both. Anything.
I think during my work and my time as a campus expert, one of the biggest skills I learned is letting go. If you are a leader and if you have your community or event that you literally built from scratch, for you can be very possessive about it. It's like your baby because you build it from the scratch and now it's doing great. But letting go is super important because that's how you create new leaders. And even at Hyderabad, my community, we have new leaders who are managing it and they're doing some really good job, and they'll be really good leaders in the future because I have let go and given them the authority to make calls in their community and whatever they want to do. So letting go of your community once it is established is super important. So I have really good structure, a path in place to make sure that handoff is happening smoothly. And a lot of great communities that I've seen, a lot of great leaders that I've seen become because they got this opportunity that someone else passed on to them. Pretty similar to how Campus Expert works. We have campus experts graduating all the time and new ones joining because they've learned from the past and they're passing it on to the new folks. Well, at my work, I'm always learning something new, something great. Compliment sandwich that I just mentioned is something new I learned a couple of months ago. And it's more common than we think. When you're trying to give a feedback to your friend, even to a junior, you don't want to come out rude. And you try to start with a very nice statement about them, and then you try to slide in the improvement, and then you end like, hey, I know you're doing great, and I know you will be doing great, but this is what I have to say. And in that process, the message is lost. And that is something I learned very recently, and I keep learning so much more about how do you manage all these awesome leaders, and how do you be a great leader. It's very similar essence to what I've done as a student leader. It's just more professional and scaled.
Gotcha. And one final question. So this is a bit of a fun one, but if you could choose any fictional character or really anyone in the industry to join the Campus Experts program, who would it be and why? Don't take the question too seriously.
A fictional character to join the Campus Expert program. I think I would choose. What's his name? Should I? I think I would pick I wanted to say Harry Potter. He's a really good kid. I think he's a really good leader too. Kind of. I think he could use some training. And he has really nice. I think Harry would be a really nice one. I was gonna say Ron Weasley.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the Harry Potter characters would be interesting to see them in Campus Expert, flying with red hoodies.
Oh yeah,
that would be a
fun.
nice.
Yeah.
That would be fine. Yeah. That would be a fun one. So yeah.
I expected you to tell a character from Star Wars, knowing how big of a fan you are, to be honest.
If I have to pick Star Wars, I can't think of characters who would be campus experts. They're this is a war. Yeah. I mean, it would be so funny to see Darth Vader holding up pennant. So yeah. Well, that's a good discussion. I think I'll be dreaming about it tonight.
Yeah, for sure. All right. That's been 10 questions with Ashwin Kumar Uppala. thank you very much for joining with us today, and we hope to have you back sometime for another segment in our community call. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'll see you around.